Welcome to the College Baseball Central Network, bringing you 90 feet closer to the greatest show on dirt.
Welcome into the third edition of CBC Radio. I have promised the first two times we've done this, which again is every Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central, designed to be a radio show component to College Baseball Central's coverage. You can watch us, I believe, almost every night live on YouTube or Twitter or X, whatever the kids are calling it these days. I hope you're watching us on YouTube, though. As I always say, I started a thought and I just kind of rambled, which again is kind of the point of why we're here, is to celebrate the tangents of discussing college baseball and also just being a human being. But the thing I wanted to say there, I hope you're watching us on YouTube. Even if you're not, do me a giant favor right now. You're tuning in. I know there are a few of you out there. Go to YouTube right now, type in College Baseball Central, click subscribe, like this video. It means a lot. It means actually the world to us as we continue to bring you guys live video of some kind every single day of the week is what we aim for. We might be a step away from that right now, which I'll get into in just a moment, but we try our best around here at College Baseball Central. We hope we've delivered on that for many years. We thank you for tuning in right now. Again, the best way to support it, go to our YouTube. If you're not watching YouTube right now, click subscribe, like the video. You're watching me on Twitter, like the video anyway. Anything you can do goes a long way. Appreciate that. Again, CBC Radio is designed to be sort of a radio show of sorts. Obviously, you're watching me on a phone right now. I'm not coming through your AM or FM speaker on the way home. It's also 5:30 or 6:30, wherever you're at. Maybe it's 3:30 on the West Coast. I'll get into my time on the West Coast this weekend momentarily. But again, it's nice to do this project. It's nice to work on a little bit, as the viewer count has been pretty solid. I think it's gone upwards over the last 2 weeks. Again, I don't want to do this if I'm talking to nobody. And I also appreciate your guys' input. If you have anything you want me to talk about on CBC Radio at any point, my DMs are always open. Shoot them to me. I always tweet out the middle of the Wednesday workday. Give me stuff to talk about. Again, I want this to be driven by you guys, not just what I want to ramble about, because I will find tangents to discuss what I want to talk about. You guys got to give me the stuff that you want me to comment on, whether it's intelligent or not. You tune in and watch. So that's on you at that point. But as I alluded to, I was in Los Angeles this weekend, as College Baseball Central does. We do advertise ourselves as CBC everywhere. I always tell our guys that we have people from coast to coast. That might not be the most true statement anymore with just the way our roster has kind of shaped up this year. We're a little bit more central and southeastern, which is something we're trying to address as well. We don't want to be the SEC CBC podcast network. We want to go coast to coast with our coverage, and I was happy to go out to LA and fall on that sword for everybody as I escaped, I think, single-digit temperatures and multiple inches of snow this weekend in Omaha to go out to LA to watch TCU play UCLA, which was obviously a highly touted series between two top 10 programs that I think a lot of preseason Omaha projections included both of those programs. You talk about UCLA, who was in Omaha last season and returns pretty the whole team. A very exciting junior class led by Rock Chalowski, who is not only a fantastic player, but what appears to be a fantastic human being. That team, I wrote a great entry about this, a great story on them. One of the longer things I've ever written, collegebaseballcentral.net. Feel free to check that out. It should be one of the more recent things up there. Just discussing how great UCLA is, and that's not breaking news to anybody who's watching me discuss college baseball at 5:30 on a Wednesday, but it's a great read. It was great to see how polite they were. They come out, each individual UCLA player that spoke to media, and when you think media in sports, sometimes you think of a press conference situation. In college baseball, oftentimes that's not the case. It's standing in a circle, whether it's outside the locker room or outside the first base dugout, whatever that looks like. So you're standing in a circle around this guy, and it's not, somebody on top of a table speaking into a microphone or anything crazy like that. But Rock and all of his teammates, all the way Wyland Moss, Will Gasparino, everybody on that UCLA team that had good weekends, took the time to shake hands of every media member and say thank you for being there, because it's LA. It's a college town that's in a massive pro city. It's in fact not a college town. I would say it's Westwood, which you don't associate with UCLA sports often. You think of everything in Hollywood, the Hollywood sign, the Lakers, the Dodgers. And John Savage recognizes that at UCLA. Again, I dove into all this in what I wrote about, but it was great to go out for UCLA, TCU. I was hoping for a more competitive series, but I was really, really impressed by UCLA. It's going to be really hard for me to not see them in Omaha in every projection I throw out the rest of the way. I feel like they're the most complete team in America right now. For some reason, their pitching staff is really, really underrated nationally in conversations. A lot of people say the Big Ten just lacks pitching. That may be the case conference wise, but I think UCLA has some fantastic pitching. I think TCU bets can testify to that. Outside of baseball, in Los Angeles on Friday night, I was made welcome to perhaps the coldest temperatures I've ever experienced. And I say that as an Omaha resident who, again, left single digit temperatures and snow to go watch UCLA play TCU. It was maybe 40 degrees, maybe between 40 and 50, which I have constantly made fun of Southern fans for dressing in jackets and whatnot at temperatures or at games in temperatures where it's 40 or 50 degrees. You see teams cancel games for those temperatures. The evening in California on Friday night was certainly a wake-up call. I was somewhat prepared with a sweatshirt, but not more prepared than that for the coming off the ocean cold, whatever special kind of cold they call that. When you don't expect it to be cold and it is cold, I think that's worse than your average cold weather. Almost like the first cold of the fall is a little bit colder than sometimes negative temperatures in winter, crazy enough as that sounds. If you live in the Midwest, you know exactly what I mean. But it was a freezing night, Friday night in LA, and I was shivering, and I never thought I'd be shivering in the state of California, but I did it. But outside of that, the trip to Los Angeles was fantastic. Very big city, as it turns out. Omaha is not a small town by any stretch. It's certainly not the metropolis that Los Angeles is. But I've been to Dallas. I've been to Washington D.C., Boston. The size of Los Angeles impressed me, and also it feels like you're in a movie the whole time. I now understand the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a lot more. I understand why you would want to make that movie. For me, the city of Dallas, for instance, is big in the sense that every building is massive from maybe this way. That's, if you're listening to me in some sort of podcast form, you don't know what I just did, but I'm saying Dallas feels like their buildings are big from left to right or laterally, whereas Los Angeles is very big vertically. You're always looking up. You're looking up at the palm trees. You're looking up at these taller, not skyscrapers, but just buildings that go very high for no reason. So it was an impressive city in that regard. It feels like you're in one of those movies where the kids have just arrived in Los Angeles and they're sticking their head at the sunroof. It feels like that at all times. And this was in February when the locals might be wearing jackets. I certainly wasn't most of the time other than that Friday night. But I had a wonderful time in Los Angeles. Flew out with the newborn and her mother, which was quite the experience. Nobody wants to be the guy in the airplane with a crying baby. Luckily, that was not the case. Us darling babies, we handle things well. We handle all adversity as well as we can, and she handled it very well. No crying on the plane whatsoever. There was a brief shriek. Got some milk immediately. That's just called room service right there, and that happens whether you're 35,000 feet up or 0 feet down. And we were happy to land both in LA and in Omaha without issue on the flight. And I'm excited for our next family trip. I hope it involves baseball because, frankly, I don't care for vacations that don't involve sports. I don't really know how people do that. I can't really go on. I don't want to go to Myrtle Beach. I have no desire to go to. I don't know. I don't even really want to go to Vegas. I don't want to go anywhere where the main attraction is not a sport. And even then, the main attraction can be not a sport. But if you're telling me that I'm going to go to Boston in February, no thank you. No desire. The Red Sox are out of town. Maybe the Celtics are playing. Who cares about the NBA? But there has to be a sport reason to get me there. And frankly, if there's no sports tie-in, I really have no interest in going wherever you're talking about. I certainly don't want to go lay on a beach for 4 days. Not my style. I like bigger cities to see sometimes, but you also got to give me a sports team. Give me a stadium to look at. I'll go to an empty stadium before I lay on a beach. But either way, that was my time in LA. The next few weeks, if you listen to me at any point, you may have heard me talk about maybe going to Arlington this week. Let this be my official announcement. I will not be returning to Arlington this week. I know that's a heartbreaker to many. Was excited to see UCLA, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, and Mississippi State, as well as Arizona State and whoever I'm forgetting about. Maybe I mentioned them, maybe I didn't. Either way, I'm not seeing them, so it doesn't matter. I just never really arranged a flight, never arranged a hotel. And after my last hotel experience in Arlington, who am I to go back? So consider this my protest of Arlington. I will add on that if you read or heard about my Arlington hotel experience week one, again, if you haven't, collegebaseballcentral.net, I wrote about it. Great read. Not so much a great story, but a great read. And I did call the Hilton Doubletree in Arlington the week after and was told that I would be getting a phone call from a supervisor later that afternoon. That phone call has not come yet. That's at some point it's on me for not calling back, but the lack of service just only gets better, and I will probably have it on my list to make that phone call again tomorrow to hopefully clear that up. Maybe I will say, give me a free hotel room and also pay for my flight out to Arlington this weekend. That's the only way. That's the only way I get to Arlington this week. So the ball is in your court, Doubletree Arlington. If I know anything about you guys, though, you have double booked your balls and your courts. So you've probably bungled that opportunity. But then the week after, I will be in Minneapolis, and I'm very excited for that. When you think of college baseball, you don't necessarily think of Minneapolis too often. But if you are a college baseball junkie, you know the Cambria Classic and how awesome it is to watch college baseball at the home of the Minnesota Vikings. Kansas is playing there this week. I will be going next week to see UNLV, South Dakota State, Northwestern, UNLV, Omaha, and Minnesota. Which, if you're thinking that doesn't sound like a fantastic slate, that's exactly where you're wrong. This is a sicko invite only. What a great event! I love watching baseball in that stadium because it's not impacted by weather. Even though you're outside, it's freezing. It's a true ball knower only event. And I've been there when it's been Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Nebraska, some of the bigger brands. Nebraska always travels well. I don't know who's going to travel well for this event. Southern Illinois is also in the mix. I forgot to mention them. I'm really excited to be at US Bank Stadium to watch what is going to be some interesting baseball between 6 teams who, frankly, don't factor into the NCAA tournament picture right now. But it feels like a good opportunity to talk to 6 teams who maybe they sneak in, maybe they make noise in the NCAA tournament. 6 programs who don't get a lot of light shined in this sport, and I'm excited to do what I can to help in that situation. These are the programs that we have to care a little bit extra about. It's so easy to care about Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, and to an extent Nebraska. It's a little bit harder to go out of your way to watch South Dakota State play UNLV, but I'm really excited to do it. And I love the Cambria Classic. I'm fired up that it's back. I mentioned 2 Big Ten teams in the Cambria Classic in Northwestern and Minnesota, which kind of leads me to an overarching point here. I was in LA to watch UCLA. That means that over the first 3-4 weeks of the season, I will have seen 3 different Big Ten schools, which is fantastic for College Baseball Central and also for my own entertainment, because I do really enjoy Big Ten baseball. I enjoy the Big Ten being played in Omaha when the Big Ten tournament comes to town in late May. That's always at Charles Schwab Stadium, has been for at least 7 or 8 years now. And I enjoy attending that, and I've enjoyed going as a media member. I love having that access in my backyard because all year I travel, and it's nice when power programs come to me. But with that, Big Ten coverage at College Baseball Central has been lacking for several years now, and I want that to change. I've used the phrase point of emphasis. If you've listened to our 2 CBC radios before this, where I'll say things like YouTube is a point of emphasis and doing things on video is a point of emphasis. Not so much either of those things in this regard, but Big Ten baseball has to be better at the CBC, because the reality is I've tweeted that I think that the Big Ten will win a national championship sometime in the next 8 years. And the side of that right now is that if the season ended right now, I would bet a lot of U.S. currency on UCLA to win the College World Series this season, because to me, like I just said, they look like one of the more complete teams in America. Not even one of the most complete team in America to me, with also the nation's best player on their roster in Rock Chalowski. And yet, if you're a Big Ten baseball fan at college baseball and you're going to College Baseball Central, there's not a direct, easy place you can go to find Big Ten coverage. And that's a shame. The Big Ten's been entertaining the last few years, maybe not in the postseason. I think the Big Ten will be the first to raise their hands and say that. UCLA did reach Omaha last season. Otherwise, I think it's 3 teams that have reached Omaha from the Big Ten since 2013, with Indiana, Michigan, and then UCLA. UCLA has, of course, reached a few times, but not as a member of the Big Ten. So it feels like the Big Ten is investing more in baseball, whether that's true or not. That is a narrative that's being strung along. And there's more money in the Big Ten. If you watch college football, you hear all this Power 2 talk. If you watch college baseball, you go, there's no way that the Big Ten is the second best conference. And I think, again, Big Ten programs and coaches will agree with you on that. The reality is that Big Ten fans exist. And that's kind of the goal of College Baseball Central is we're not going to just cater to the SEC fans who give us the most likes and retweets, because that's not what this is about. We enjoy the stories across college baseball from coast to coast, and including the middle of the country, which includes the Big 12, which I'm very fond of. But the coverage of the Big Ten has got to be better at College Baseball Central, and that's something that we're going to be discussing internally over the next few weeks. You might see some shakeups in what we do and how we do things to address this need. What we do isn't going away. Nobody who talks about the SEC is all of a sudden going to be having a relevant opinion on the Big Ten. That's not what I want either. I want us to be smart about the way we do things. I want you to find consistency in whatever you want to hear about on a consistent basis. And right now, Big Ten fans aren't getting that privilege. But speaking of shining light on maybe things that we don't talk enough about, this is the second week that we're being joined by Matt Grissom from College Baseball Insiders, who's also sort of with CBC right now. I'll actually have him define his role, because I noticed he changed his Twitter bio. So I'm going to have him talk a little bit about his role with College Baseball Central this season and moving forward. But I'd like to bring on Matt Grissom with Moneyball, his new segment where he shines light on maybe some nerdy stuff that goes over my head and hopefully doesn't go too far over your head. Come on.
He can't throw. But what can he do?
He gets on base.
We are card counters at the blackjack table.
You're buying into this Bill James bullshit, are you?
I'm heading in. Text me the play-by-play.
Wait, what?
I don't watch the games.
I was there and then I was gone. Hello, Noah.
Hello, Matt.
A lot to unpack.
Matt, I get it.
But I'll be in Las Vegas. You had mentioned Las Vegas, and I'll be there covering college baseball. You could have been out there with me as I get to see UC Irvine, Vanderbilt, Arizona, and Oregon. One of those teams is not making the field of 64, unfortunately. And I think it's going to be Arizona, who's off to a, 1-6 record?
I think it's 1-7.
1-7.
Disastrous start for the Arizona Wildcats, of course, from the Big 12. That's a program that I hyped up a little bit, not as much as others. I will say I was not as high on Arizona as others. I ranked West Virginia higher than Arizona, at least up here. So I'm very curious to see how they rebound, because we can get into Arizona a little bit, not that you wanted to, but the only thing I'll say on them is they started off last year very slowly. So that gives me a little bit of reason to believe that they might turn it around. But I'm very intrigued to see how they do in Vegas, because it feels like if it's not now, it's almost never.
So as you alluded to my role, let's talk about that, because I still don't really know. But for those that it's your first time seeing my face, I'm a co-founder of College Baseball Insiders. We were a data and analytics platform, and that was something that CBC was lacking. So we decided about, I guess, the College World Series last year in Omaha to put our heads together and try to implement both into the CBC brand. Noah invited me to come along on this journey, I guess, kind of like as the bus driver of moving things along in that sense. So very soon we will have a new website, which will also feature stats and analytics, game projections, a lot of cool stuff. Partially what you could see at collegebaseballinsiders.com right now, as well as collegebaseballcentral.net. But as of right now, I'm just Noah's right-hand man trying to steer this ship into the future of what CBC is.
Matt, we've enjoyed having you around for the most part. Sometimes you're a greaseball, but at other points, I do enjoy talking to you on the phone. As I've said before, part of our conversations were the reason that CBC Radio came to exist. And it is what it is today, just a massive, overpowering success. And now we have you as a recurring guest with your segment Moneyball.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So let's get into it, as I was shamelessly advertising College Baseball Central. back there. So Moneyball is a segment for your first time here where we're going to shine a light. And I changed it a little bit. I can do that, I feel like. We're not going to talk about Georgia Tech because that's who everybody's talking about right now. It's easy to do when they're plating 20 runs a game and blowing everybody out. So what we want to do is find the lower value teams, the guys that you may not be paying close attention to. And that starts with none less than Yale, who has the hitter of the week, Garrett Larson, sitting atop in weighted runs created at 345 with an on-base percentage of 833, if I can read that small. Outstanding kid here for this Yale team. And then your pitcher of the week was Grant Govil. I think I said that right. I looked at the pronunciation guide that the Trojans put out last year. As long as he hasn't changed the pronunciation of his name, that should be Grant Govell. But Jake Marciano is leading the country right now in Sierra. It's like negative 1.56. It's insane. Dax Whitney, also hard not to put there, pitcher of the week, coming off a 17 strikeout game. That was impressive. But the guy that you're probably not paying attention to, Grant Govil, sitting at number 2 in the country with a negative 0.45 Sierra. Hey, he's registered 21 strikeouts, good for second in the country behind Dax Whitney through 12 innings pitched. This kid is phenomenal. If you're not watching USC baseball, that may give you a reason to. The team of the week, the Miami Hurricanes, sitting at number 7 in weighted runs created. Number 7 in Sierra, number 3 in weighted runs created. You want to talk about balanced teams? Georgia, again, sits atop the list, but Miami, maybe a team you're not paying attention to. The pitching staff of the week, it's got to go to Auburn. I mentioned his name earlier, Jake Marciano. What they just did in Arlington, going 3-0. This pitching staff looks to be elite, and I'm excited to watch how that team unfolds down through SEC play. And then your lineup of the week, the team that nobody I've seen talk about, New Mexico, just mashing the ball right now. Number 2 in the country in batting average as a team. Number 4 in runs created, sitting at, 173. Maybe I should have not made this graphic so small, but maybe rotate your phone into landscape mode and see it. But New Mexico smashing the ball right now. I would love to see them continue this trajectory of having a high-powered offense.
Again, if you're watching myself and Matt Grissom with Moneyball right now as part of CBC Radio, and you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, click subscribe, click like, switch over to YouTube. If you're on Twitter right now, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment. It means a lot. Let us know that we're doing something right. Matt, I noticed that you had Miami. They had a great outing against UCF that I was able to watch, and then Auburn had a great, not so great outing, I should say, against Cincinnati, and then Auburn plays Nebraska this week. Just curious about what your process is for gathering this information. Is it strictly after the fact? Are you following things during the weekend? I know it's kind of hard to monitor maybe under the radar guys before they're actually doing something. But I'm curious about if there are any games that you might have your eyes on, just looking forward for maybe somebody to keep an eye on, maybe that's trending up but not all the way up, or what your process is for gathering the information that you bring onto Moneyball.
Yeah, like I said, it's Dax Whitney probably had the week of all the pitchers. But, again, my goal here is to find the guys maybe after the fact, because you didn't watch a Yale game or a New Mexico game. But the stats see everything, and that's why I love them, because your eyes can only see 1 or 2 games at a time, really take it all in, and analytics see it all. So it's going to be a mix of what my eyeballs see, but also relying more on the analytics to find those teams that creep through. Like last week, Stephen F. Austin was the team of the week, and I don't know of the hundreds of people that are sitting here watching this, how many Stephen F. Austin games they've watched. That being said, it is a small sample size. So we just saw Stephen F. Austin drop a series to, I believe, Pine Bluff of Arkansas. And that really leads me into the next thing is look at the analytics. And again, we will have that on our site, hopefully by the end of next week. But people were shocked that Arkansas State upset Arkansas yesterday and came close today. Arkansas gets a 1-0 bounce back win against the cross-state rival. Not really a rival, but you get my drift. The offense for Arkansas is abysmal. You look at their weighted runs created. They were sitting at 88 after the weekend in Arlington. That's 12% below average. I know if I'm talking to the common man, weighted runs created is the easiest thing to monitor because 100 is average. Anything less than that, such as 88, that's 12% below average. So when you look at New Mexico's 173, they're hitting 73% above average. It's a pretty easy stat to understand, in my opinion. But Arkansas State, hats off to them, really across the state of Arkansas, from Chris Curry at Little Rock to Arkansas State doing big things, upsetting Big Brother, whatever you want to call it. I think Arkansas baseball is at an all right place, even though the Razorback fans in my Twitter mentions would not agree. Arkansas State was a good team and deserved to win yesterday.
You mentioned WRC Plus as the kind of easiest for us non-nerds to kind of attach ourselves to if we're going to experiment with the next level stats. What would the pitching equivalent of that be for those of us who want to follow maybe our favorite arms but don't know how to do it besides strikeouts, walks, and ERA? What's next?
Yeah, Sierra is the biggest one that projects future success. So, for instance, Hagen Smith, first game of the season a couple years ago, got blown up, had a 27 ERA, but his Sierra was still less than 3. So you remove all the factors that a pitcher cannot control and focuses on really their under the hood talent level. And so a really good Sierra is kind of like a good ERA, just magnified. Now, obviously, with the small sample size, there's not going to be very many negatives. I think Paul Skeens was the closest to finish to 0 at his time at LSU, but the negatives will go away. It's obviously not possible to have negative runs allowed, but it's factored a different way, inducing ground balls, things like that, pop-ups, home run to fly ball ratio. It, again, takes everything out of the defense and weather and everything else and focuses only on what the pitcher can control, which is limiting walks, and strikeouts are big proponents of the Sierra. So look at it very similar to an ERA, just a more accurate one of how good the pitcher actually is.
And Matt, these will be available on collegebaseballcentral.net as soon as
hopefully next week.
That's what we're all waiting for, is this new website. Yep. It's turning into a fire fest.
The website, the content, the articles, everything should be ready by this weekend, and all the stats being implemented into the site and the projections, everything like that, by the end of next week.
Well, Matt, if there's anything else you want to add, go right ahead. Otherwise, thank you for joining us again on Moneyball. This is your segment to kind of talk to us dum-dums. Not that you're overly smart. I would never give you that compliment, but
thank you.
Thank you for your time once again. And again, if you have anything to add, go ahead. But otherwise, just let the people know where to follow you and what you do.
I'm at M Grissom on Twitter, and you can check out the projections and everything at collegebaseballinsiders.com, soon to be found on collegebaseballcentral.net. Unless you want to have me hang around for this next segment.
You know what? I might have you hang around a little bit, Matt. You raised a good point. The next thing I want to discuss, and I hate when Matt I just did the thing that you really can't stand, Matt, is when I drag out and say, here's what I'm going to talk about next, but I'm going to do that anyway. It feels like over the last few weeks, and again, it's only been 2 weeks of the season, doesn't it feel like it's been longer than that, Matt? Is that fair, that it feels like we're about a month in of college baseball?
Yeah, it really does. Which for us, I mean, with the Diamond Report, it started way back in December. So, yeah, we've been enthralled with college baseball far longer than 2 weeks.
Feels like we're about ready for conference play, but we're still a long way to go in non-con action for every conference except the Big Ten, because I do pay attention to that Big Ten baseball very soon. But either way, last week we saw an explosion of college baseball apps. Now, I know what you're thinking. I've never seen a college baseball app in my life. I've seen the ESPN app pretend to know about college baseball. I have an app called the Score app that does a pretty poor job of doing college baseball coverage. Maybe during the postseason they show up, but outside of that, it's very hard to click into an app and find a series of scores laid out in front of you. Do it right now for the NBA, Major League Baseball, spring training, any other sport that's going on right now, college basketball, women's basketball, whatever that looks like. You will find scores. You'll find box scores. You'll find live action of, who has the ball, how much time is left. Very basic things as a sports fan that you've become accustomed to. If you love college baseball, you know that college baseball has always been a little bit of a different sport, for better or for worse. And this is probably one of the categories where it's for worse. It's very hard to, from a strictly checking a score perspective, it's a very hard sport to follow. It's easy to follow if you follow the right people on the right social media platform, but from an app perspective, good luck. Good luck accidentally getting into college baseball, which I think I kind of enjoy with the sport. But at the same time, a lot of people will pump the phrase grow the game at you, and there is no harder way to grow the game than not being able to check the score of your favorite team unless your team's social media team is tweeting about it, which is just a crazy way to think about a sport. So it was very cool from my perspective when all of a sudden app after app, I've seen at least 3 or 4 come onto Twitter and advertise. Gone are the days of college baseball being extinct on the App Store and box scores not being easy to find, certainly not live. Gone are those days where now you can download this app that I have, dwelling that I'm creating with a group of people, that now you can click it and see who's on first base for LSU right now, how many outs are there, what's the count, who's at the plate for whoever LSU is playing, what's the score, what's the inning. Again, a very basic thing, but it doesn't exist for college baseball. Now all of a sudden, not just one person is doing it, but now you've got, looks like 3, 4, maybe even more people than that doing it. So immediately my thought is, number one, I can barely open an app on my phone. I feel like a geriatric at times. Sometimes an app will open, it'll pause, and I'll have to close it, let alone run an app. I certainly can't do that. Matt, maybe you could figure it out. But then I would ask you, and I'm going to ask everybody else, why on earth haven't you done that yet, Matt? What has been holding you up? And why is it now that when one person does it, 18 people are able to do it overnight? It seems like it's very perplexing to me. And Matt, I know you've raised some good points with me just in discussions. How are they getting this data? Where does it come from? If it's been so easy to tell me who's on first base for LSU right now, why hasn't D1 Baseball, ESPN, why hasn't anybody with money done it? And why is some guy who, as far as I know, is sitting in his basement behind a computer, why is he able to do this over the course of a weekend? So, Matt, I'm going to, without even asking you a direct question, I'm just going to hand you the microphone here and let you kind of ramble on about your thoughts on this very cool concept of college baseball scores being in everybody's pocket. Frankly, that's the way it should be. But now it's kind of like there's 15 of you. I don't know which one of you I'm going to choose, and I don't know which one of you guys are going to last.
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question, Noah, because where are they getting the information? Is it properly licensed? Are they authorized to display the information through an app? And that begs the question, if you are, then why isn't the app live for mass downloads yet? Or why has ESPN or D1 Baseball not bought you out? That to me is fishy of where you're getting the information. We know that it is very difficult in college baseball to get access to information because it's pretty much walled up. And unless you're somebody, you're not getting that information legally or through the proper channels of obtaining it. So I commend people for trying to create the app. I encourage you to go about it the right way and become an authorized displayer of that information. And like you said, this isn't groundbreaking things. I mean, you can watch a Cubs game in spring baseball and see this data that we're asking for. Now, the difference is the feed is more accessible and licensable for MLB, and we don't have that yet for college baseball, to my knowledge. Now, if somebody out there is friends with somebody at Stat Broadcast and is going through the proper channels of making this an active display and doing it the right way, my next question would be, why are you charging for it? Because you can go to statbroadcast.com and look at box scores for any game you want. It's not intellectual property. It's not anything. And I'm not trying to lawyer this up. because it's a casual conversation. And again, I'm pushing for this. We need this in college baseball. It would be great, but do it the right way, because the last thing we want for the sport is for someone to rush something to market that has not been properly vetted and to try to charge money for it, only to have to turn around and either pay that back to Stat Broadcast or wherever you're getting the information, or refund it all to the patrons that signed up for your service.
Let me ask you a hypothetical, Matt, as somebody who, again, not my realm. I don't know much about this in terms of making it happen. But I almost think of this as maybe college baseball's Napster moment, where all these people are stealing data, whether it's stealing or not, whatever that looks like, swiping data, using your resource, whatever you want to call it. And they're making it their own thing to an extent and then making money off of that. It feels like this maybe opens the road for whatever college baseball's Spotify is, which I don't think it's a brave concept to call what Major League Baseball has innovative, or what every other sport in the world has innovative. It's literally how sports are presented to us in an app, in a box score, in a regular score, in a game cast, in an app, as opposed to going to an individual team site. But I wonder if this is prevalent enough where you have at least 3-4 guys doing this right now. And again, maybe one of them is doing it the right way. Maybe they're all doing it the right way. But if it is not being done the right way, I wonder if this paves the road for Stat Broadcast or whoever is in charge of these numbers to go and say, why don't we just do this ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what happened with Napster. You know, you had all these people ripping music, and the artists were ultimately like, well, all right, well, that's cool. Pay us now. And they came out with their own streaming platforms, not the artists, but companies that did it the right way, that now the artists get a cut. You download a song on Spotify. And now you're talking about the universities. And if you've paid any attention to college athletics over the last 5 years, it's all about the money now. So if the university is getting a kickback, you know, now we're talking about forming that pathway of legitimacy here in doing things the right way and going through the proper channels of how can I take this information that is not mine and display it at a cost where I've now established that I'm providing some type of intellectual property that I don't own, or nor am I authorized to use. Because at that point, all it is a cleaned up format of a Stat Broadcast, or I think Sidearm Sports does some box score data. It may just be all for naught at the end of the day. Until college baseball has a legitimate app, and I'm not saying that app A, B, or C is not legitimate, but if it was this easy to do it, why hasn't D1 done it? Why hasn't ESPN done it? Action Network, The Score, all of these places already have these contacts. I think it's a licensing issue with the individual universities between them and Stat Broadcast, and how that feed is being shared. And we've seen it already, that there have been issues with universities and incorrect data now because of the people scraping this information, to coin your term earlier that you were looking for. It is crashing Stat Broadcast servers, which is now affecting the university's ability to accurately project scores to the people physically at the events covering the team. And that's where I think you're getting in a lot of hot water if you're trying to do this without going through the proper channels.
Is there I forget where I was exactly going to go with this. Is there shoot, Gris, I wish I had known what I was going to ask. Is there what would be a logical question to ask you after what you just said? It was a good question, I'll tell you that much. Shoot, it was going to be a good point. It was going to be a really good question. So if you could just react to the good question I just didn't ask you.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think as a college baseball fan myself, I would love an app in my hands that showed me who was on first and second base and how many outs there were and what my favorite player is hitting this game. If he's 1 for 4 and, needs to get the bat off his shoulder, that would be all beneficial things to know. But again, it's something I can get if I just go to the team stats page and track it. Now, it is great to have it all in one hand. I'm going to go ahead and go back to you so you don't lose this question.
Yeah, I do remember what I was going to ask. How much of it at the end of the day is a problem with also the way that the NCAA or whoever is the puppeteer of the way that stats are shared, how much of it is their fault at the same time that we don't already have a live scoreboard?
Yeah, I think it just kind of shows the state of college baseball. It's kind of the forgotten sport. This type of technology has been here for, more than a decade. For maybe dating myself, but like the first iPhone, I remember the ESPN app had live scores. Like you could watch scores change in a basketball game. We know the technology's there. Why no one has taken that information, licensed it to then put it through an app for consumption from the public, I'm just baffled by it. And it seems that someone has figured it out. Kudos to you, but did you figure it out for the right reasons? Or is this like a quick money grab where you're going to try to sell the app for $4.99, $9.99, whatever, and it all be for nothing because Stat Broadcast or whoever shut you down in a month?
It's a very intriguing concept because they've all struck up out of nowhere. I'm excited to see how it lasts because right now they're anxious. There's the one that's kind of leading the way. I don't know the exact name of it, nor is it maybe even best to give them a shout out. I don't know how that works, but they're very interactive, tweeting all the time. Seems to be somewhat of a college baseball fan, maybe at least from my point of view. But I'm intrigued to see where it all goes, and it's very strange because it feels like we should already have this. We don't right now. Feels like almost a Batman situation for some of these guys, but at the end of the Dark Knight, they do chase them out of town. Yeah,
just be diligent and build something sustainable, not something gimmicky that is going to be shut down. That's because we're rooting for you. I think all college baseball fans, people like us, it's so convenient to just go straight to your phone and see all the scores and to know, oh, Aaron Beatty hit 2 home runs in the LSU game. Like that is what the sport deserves. Just please go about it the right way so that we can actually have a future with that, not just let's put something up temporarily, sell it, and then, sustainability be an issue down the road.
Excellent points from Matt Grissom, who stuck around, I should say. I didn't mean to stutter so much there. Stuck around a little bit longer than anticipated, but I'm glad you did because I would not have been able to accomplish that 5-10 minute conversation that we just had. Excited for the future of apps in college baseball. Hopefully just one app maybe would be cool. Last thing I want to do is have 6 different apps doing the same thing. I think those will effectively be shut down once one wins the race, if any win the race. I hope somebody does win the race the right way, and looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. If it comes down to us having to formulate an app, Gris, I will join you in doing that. I will just not be able to do anything. So it'll all be you.
Okay. Sounds good. I won't either. I'm not an app designer in the least, but I'd love to be a part of it, but it seems like there's a lot of gatekeeping going on between the NCAA and how stats for baseball are already so difficult to obtain. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out though. Because the sport needs it. Any additional coverage that you can provide to a sport that already doesn't get enough, I think is good on all fronts. So I just hope that it's sustainable.
Exactly. Some great points from Matt Grissom. Thanks for joining us for way longer than anticipated, Gris. I'm actually just going to remove you from the screen right now because I'm so sick of seeing you, Gris. Thank you for joining us. There's really only one more thing I wanted to discuss as we close things down because, as I always say, I aim for about 45 minutes, not much longer. as you guys tune in. The reality is it's 5:30 Central Time. That means we're cutting into my dinner time. We're cutting into your dinner time. More importantly, I don't want to sit and linger. I don't want to sit and recap scores because the reality is it's Wednesday. If you're a college baseball fan listening to me talk about college baseball at 5:30 or 6:30 on a Wednesday night, the reality is you already know the scores. You know how your favorite team did. You've already lost sleep over how your team just played. If you're a fan of the sport, you're really excited about certain things. I'm not going to change your mind on any of that because we're closer to next weekend than we are last weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. Last thing I just want to touch on, and again, Grissom, you've screwed up my screen situation here. As I just wanted to highlight some games. Gris, can you fix my screen? Thank you. He's in the background. He's such a nerd. There you go, Gris. Some things to watch this weekend. I close it out every week with just top 5 series or events. I'm excited for the end of events. I love neutral site action, but I'm looking forward to when it's just 5 series on the screen here. But I was able to highlight a couple in there, mixing with some events. Arlington, weekend number 3. I touched on the teams there already. UCLA leads the way. You get some SEC action in there with Mississippi State, Tennessee. And again, there's somebody else. I always forget who's in there. And then the Bruce Bolt Classic, which is actually a really exciting field. So I'm glad I'm going to be staying home this weekend to tune in and be able to watch multiple games for the first time, really, this season in 2026. The Bruce Bolt Classic, Texas, Coastal Carolina. Some more teams. I believe Oregon State's in the mix. Might be wrong on that. I probably am wrong on that. Baylor might be there. Gris, you're going to have to let me know what I'm screwing up there. But then Florida at Miami, that's always a fun one. Feels like it's always a 2-1 and then an exciting game to close it out with just kind of, your typical Sunday baseball. Nebraska at Auburn. That's 2 teams that I'm really intrigued by. I think Nebraska's better than I thought that they would be, at least with the way last season ended. I thought that this would be kind of a rebuilding year. I fell in love with their roster just a little bit in doing the Diamond Report. And then they've played some pretty solid baseball this year. They only went 1-2 last week in Arlington, but I was impressed with their win. They blew out Florida State. I'm in on the Huskers a little bit this year. And then Auburn, what a tremendous sophomore class that they have, as well as some more veteran guys. I love Bub Terrell. I'm looking forward to seeing how Auburn plays against Nebraska because when I watched them against Cincinnati, they didn't look very good, but that is an SEC midweek, which as we all know, SEC teams don't get punished for midweek losses, so that doesn't count. But a weekend series against Nebraska intrigues me quite a bit. And then Southern Miss at Louisiana Tech. This feels very, very old-fashioned, back to the days when the Love Shack was at its best. You think of, I think Southern Miss and Louisiana Tech met in a regional final a few years ago. I want to say maybe 2022. And what a matchup that was. I'm going to lock in 22 because then Southern Miss played Ole Miss. Really fun one. I love this matchup, mid-major versus mid-major. And frankly, Southern Miss looks like maybe the number 2, 3, 4 team in the country right now. They've looked nearly unbeatable. It feels like that's going to crack at some point. If it doesn't, great. I'll see the what do they call them? The mustard buzzards or whatever Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans call them in Omaha. I wouldn't mind that. I'll go on record and say that. Those are the 5 that I've identified as my favorite, the ones that I'll be tuning into the most this weekend. Again, if you enjoy what I've been rambling about, if you like listening to me talk about various tangents, if you like Moneyball, you like Matt Grissom, you liked our discussion with the app, you like anything that I touched on, you like the future of Big Ten baseball at CBC, shoot me a DM, comment, like, retweet, literally do anything. I don't care what it is that you do any other day of the week, but go ahead and throw me a like, throw a DM, whatever it is to let me know that I'm not an insane person. That goes a long way because it gets me excited to come back here next Wednesday, 5:30, 6:30 Eastern, same time every Wednesday. If this is a big enough hit, we'll do it again on Thursdays. We'll do whatever it takes, but you guys have to let me know. I don't do anything without your guys' approval. You're my boss here. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time. I'm going to cut the rambling right now. I'm going to click end stream. We're all going to go eat dinner, and it's going to be awesome.